Madam Chairwoman and Directors, thank you very much for welcoming me this evening. It's a pleasure to be here. As you mentioned, I'm here to talk about our decision to do the scanning of the ground surfaces below the residential units at Site 12 here at Treasure Island. But first I wanted to start with a little bit of history about our current situation. As the Navy completes cleanup at Treasure Island, the health and safety remain our highest priority in that process. Our ultimate goal is that the cleanup program is safe and successful and results in productive economic reuse of the island for the city of San Francisco. While we have found and removed radiological items, based on the data to date, there are no public health hazards. The State Department of Public Health, as well as the Department of Toxic Substances Control, have continued to be actively engaged and support these conclusions and this position. Our knowledge of the radiological condition at Treasure Island has continued to evolve. In 2006, the Navy issued an HRA, or a historical radiological assessment, which identified potentially radiologically impacted areas, and those were primarily the solid waste disposal areas on the island that contained many buried wastes. But from 2007 to 2011, a great deal of cleanup and field work was underway, and a much greater volume of low-level radiological material was found and removed, a much greater volume than was anticipated. So the Navy team and the regulatory agencies discussed this, and it was determined that the Navy needed to update the historical radiological assessment to reflect all this new information and data. In 2012, there was a new updated draft historical radiological assessment that was released and shared with the regulatory agencies. And this updated document was discussed at several public meetings and resulted in requests for many areas to be scanned for potential radiological issues. In response to those concerns, in the fall of 2012, the State California Department of Public Health completed radiological surveys around the Child Care Center, the Boys and Girls Club, the school, the commercial winery, and a trailer, and issued their findings that there were no elevated readings detected. In the spring of 2013, the California Department of Public Health completed scans of the common areas and the backyards of the residential units. The Navy also completed those scans. We did ground surface radiological surveys in Site 12, completing in December. 10 radiological objects were removed that were not part of the solid waste disposal areas. The state issued findings with the conclusion that they did not identify any areas that were of a health threat. Additionally, as part of a pre-demolition characterization effort in those solid waste disposal areas, we detected an elevated radiological reading below one of the slabs in building 1101 on Bigelow Court. It's important to note that this was not a building that was ever leased. And I think it's also important to note that the finding wasn't really remarkable based on what we found. The reading of the element was far below the California exposure limit. However, it was important to us because we didn't expect to find it there. And our model of the site and how things were dispersed did not take into account that we could find something under a slab of a unit. So for that reason, for the science, our need to fill that data gap, we believe it is important to scan the ground underneath the slabs of the other residential units. It now appears that there was some site grading when the housing was built that dispersed some things from the solid waste disposal areas, and that was not a concept that was previously considered in the model. Our plan is to scan the ground surfaces under the slabs and give us a complete picture. We don't have all the details yet, and I'm sorry if you're disappointed that you want a lot of details tonight, but we wanted to make sure we shared and communicated as soon as possible. We heard the community, we're looking at our models, and we want to come out and do the scanning. We're planning a public meeting that will be part of the process to get public input into the plan. We plan to step up fact sheets, newsletters, emails, and do a better job at our communication, especially on this very important matter. Just a map of Site 12. There are 900 housing units, 706 of which are included in our leases to TIDA. 202 units remain offline due to Navy's cleanup activity. I believe all the orange buildings have been demolished on this map, and all the blue buildings are those under Navy control and part of the current cleanup actions. As remarked by many, there are signs and fences where necessary, limiting access, and that is an element to protect people's safety. As I mentioned previously, open spaces, roads, and backyards in this area have all been scanned. So what is the Navy doing? Tonight we're here making sure we reinforce and communicate our decision to scan the ground beneath these slabs in the interior of the units in Site 12. Based on the additional information of that find under Building 1101 and in concert with residents' request. We've developed a scope of work and we've begun the contracting process. We'll know a lot more details when we've actually awarded the contract and we can generate detailed plans to accomplish the work. Those details will range from technical matters like the scanning parameters and scanning equipment to the logistics of moving furniture and scheduling the units. All of these activities will be carefully coordinated with TIDA and the housing services providers. Once scans are complete, we'll provide data as soon as we can, and we'll also use the culmination of all the data to produce an overall evaluation of the site. Our conceptual timeline for doing this work, as I mentioned, we've begun the contracting process and issued a request for proposal. We plan an award in mid-April, so that should be very soon, and we can begin all the detailed planning as mentioned. We envision a community meeting in mid-May, once we have more details to share, and we anticipate starting scans in June. We've asked the contractor to propose the best technical solution to conduct this survey work as quickly as possible with keen attention to quality. So we don't know the exact duration of the scanning. We put to be determined here. We're estimating somewhere on the order of 3 months, but we really want to see what they can come back with, what they can do, the number of teams they can put on this, the number of qualified folks they have to support those teams, and we'll know that information relatively soon. So what are our commitments? Admittedly, tonight I don't have a lot of details to share with you, but we want to communicate what we planned and the actions we're taking. We're committed to the cleanup program at Treasure Island and to the people living and working here. We will continue to work closely with TIDA and to coordinate our efforts. We know this is important, and we are working to enhance our communications. As I mentioned, with websites, newsletters, meetings. Additionally, we'd be happy to come back and brief the board when we do have more concrete details to share. We will continue partnering with TIDA to support their tenant management and working with all the stakeholders toward the successful and safe reuse of Treasure Island. And we will be here until the entire cleanup program is done. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.